Let's get started with electricity manipulation. Another highly volatile yet extremely useful and common ability that can spark up any conversation. Oh God, I'm sorry. Users of electrokinesis can create, shape, and manipulate electricity. Now, we've all interacted with electricity in some way or another, but for those who aren't as wired as others, electricity is the physical phenomena associated with the presence and motion of matter that has the property of an electric charge. Electricity, being a form of energy that results from the movement of charged particles, is usually classified as a secondary energy source, meaning that it's usually created from the conversion of other sources of energy, oftentimes having a close relation to magnetism because both are a part of the phenomenon of electromagnetism. In most cases, users of this ability will be portrayed in a rock, paper, scissors dynamic, where one power is superior to another power while being inferior to another, while at the same time being equal to a completely unrelated power. But before we delve any further, I have to warn you all, one nerd to another, the joules past this point contain some pretty high levels of voltage. I can't in good conscience have you guys follow this arc without informing you first that the charge will leave you thunderstruck. But the effects can be grounded by hitting that like and subscribe button. In my opinion, forcibly shocking people into doing what you want works just as well. But hey, what do I know? It's electric. Boogie, boogie, boogie. That wasn't a joke. It literally is electricity. Electricity is one of the most important ideals and concepts of earthly existence, which in itself is pretty ironic because us earthlings have only had control over the phenomenon, to where we can use it, for a little over a century. And while we have numerous persons throughout history that we can give credit to, ranging from the Greek philosopher Thales of Milesius, that pronunciation, who was one of the first researchers studying static electricity. American inventors Benjamin Franklin and Nikola Tesla also discovered how an electric charge interacts with an object. All the way to English scientist Michael Faraday, who contributed to the study of electromagnetism and electrochemistry. But before it was able to be successfully examined the way it is now, in our common era, it could only be observed during bouts of electrical discharges ranging from static to lightning or in certain aquatic species. Ancient Egyptian texts referred to these electric fish as protectors of other aquatic life, dubbing it Thunderer of the Nile. But the concept of lightning didn't stay grounded. Myth and legends of characters, along with some creatures, tried to explain or at least rationalize the phenomenon, giving it supernatural properties and a metaphysical origin, making people of ancient times think that lightning was a celestial fire, linking it to deities such as Thor, the Norse god of thunder, whose hammer could summon storms, or Zeus, the sky father of the Greeks, who was able to hurl bolts of pure lightning to precise and devastating effects. But electricity, like every other substance on the earth, has its usefulness, but the main use and perhaps its most valuable is in its convenient ability to transfer energy. That main effect has been adapted to a huge, forever growing industry with endless number of uses. But despite its massive discoveries, it still had not become something mainstream until the early 20th century. And with that, electricity ceased to be a novelty and became a necessity of everyday life in the later half of the 20th century. That's kind of ironic because nowadays, we don't really pay electricity much attention. It's just something we expect to work. And when it stops working, then that's when we pay attention to it. Now for a brief recap. An electric charge between matter gives rise to and interacts with an electromagnetic force, one of the four fundamental forces of nature. The most familiar carriers of electric charges tend to be electrons and protons. But despite all this, electricity is still at its most effective when it's channeled through a medium. One that has enough solidity so that the electric charge can pass through freely, like water or metal. At the risk of going off on several tangents and never finding my way back, because that's just what I do, I want to state that electricity manipulation is classified, or at least portrayed in most cases, as an uber ability. Sometimes being called or associated with thunder, the sound produced from the lightning. A common trope with this power often gives electricity esoteric properties, having an undiscoverable aspect that possesses or grants massive powers, or plot progressing capabilities, stating that an instance or a user of this ability can do any and everything they desire, with examples showing the healing of wounds, the restarting or creation of life, sentience, mental control, as well as imitating other abilities such as telekinesis, magnetism, or weather control. And while this can be argued and supported, especially if one has a large enough imagination, unfortunately, our tangible and rule-bound reality shows us that electricity is not as halfway remarkable as it is in popular culture. Now, don't get me wrong. This ability in the right hands or not is still one of the most preferred abilities in addition to being powerful and looking flashy. For one, when we think of electricity, we think of it being projected in some way, shape, or form. This has been translated to popular culture as well, but when shooting lightning, it tends to be treated as some sort of light-producing energy beam, where you can free aim and shoot wherever you choose. This really doesn't make a whole lot of sense because the release of lightning is just a really big static charge, and then an equally as big destructive discharge. It's not a preternatural process. You produce the same effect when wearing sweaters or thick clothing, and then you release it through static electricity that you built up, although not on such a massive scale. Remember the electron or protons that became charged? This helps them leap from one object with a high potential or higher charge to something with a lower potential or lower charge, meaning the only way to effectively aim would be to modify the potential of both you and your target, in which case it would be impossible to dodge. Because of that, this aspect of electricity is almost always ignored, unless it's for a dramatic effect, as something that's shown to being instantaneous and unavoidable risks becoming overpowered. And power is one thing that this ability carries in spades, as popular culture has shown us instances of electrical sparks being used to symbolize an excess of power, often with dangerous undertones. But that leads us perfectly to our next point on what electricity or lightning represents. When normally portrayed, electricity takes the form of a lightning bolt, both in nature and in various artistic depictions. The lightning bolt, however, has always symbolized a sudden illumination and the destruction of ignorance, which is why in popular culture, when a character gets an idea or discovers something, a light bulb will appear over their heads, symbolizing their sudden realization. In a similar but darker, more dramatic manner, when information is revealed or ignorance is erased, instead of a satisfying ding of a light bulb, we see a flash of lightning that illuminates the surrounding darkness, which is immediately followed by the crash of thunder, revealing our current situation in a way that you cannot ignore. Few media which uses electricity manipulation powers actually address the main issue which comes with the power, which is damage to oneself. Even assuming that the user, being a normal human, is immune to electricity, which is often shown to be true in many cases that we've been shown, secondary superpowers, the heat, light, and sound produced by the lightning blast exiting their hands, chest, eyes would cause a level of damage that would put you or whoever you were around off from ever using this ability again. Wielders of this power set have an odd tendency to either be insane, hyperactive, emotionally unstable, have blonde hair, be African American, or some combination of the previously mentioned in more modern interpretations, especially when it comes to science fiction. Previous incarnations, however, attributed this element with knightly or chivalrous mannerisms because electricity is viewed as a regal or divine ability. The former makes sense not just because they share personality similarities to the element their powers are based off of, but we've been shown characters through the decades who have either had a superficially calm, jovial, or apathetic disposition become volatile or unpredictable upon the use of their abilities. And just like electricity, seemingly calm and controlled when put towards a use, but in its pure, uncontrolled state, extremely hazardous. Which explains why you wouldn't touch an exposed crackling wire, at least I hope not, but will gladly interact with an appliance that electricity is channeled through. And on that note, because electricity is synonymous with technology nowadays, users of this power are seen to be related to technology in some way, shape, or form, leading to users being a techie, making friends with robots, or feeling more comfortable around those they can give life to, electricity, versus someone they might hurt, humans. Not all, but just my observation. Users of this power are seen with designs that carry a lot of sharp, thick, or angular lines, while colors associated with this power range from white, blue, and yellow. And heck, throw in a violet in there too. I've seen purple lightning, personally, maybe. But we know that there exist different colors associated with different types or different conditions of the electricity. Users of this power are portrayed to have extremely high speed, moderate to high attack power, and immense versatility. I mean, a lot. Creators often stretch the limits of what electricity manipulation is capable of granting, not just physical powers, such as, control over the element itself, but scientific ideals and metaphysical theories that haven't been yet proven. These seem to work when it comes to this power, and with that, it wouldn't be a far stretch to state that most characters with this ability are shown to be intelligent, in addition to being mentally unstable to a certain degree. And it's this mental instability that leads the user to get crafty or downright taboo with how these powers could work. Now this is a big one, so stay with me here. With the power to manipulate electricity comes the natural ability to generate heat via supercharging the air, but you're also able to attack with and defend with electricity via electric attacks. They're capable of producing a tether-like electric arc that clings objects through magnetic or electrostatic attraction via electric pull. The user can release extreme electrical currents through a medium with these attacks with electric shock. They can then control the spread and flow of the electricity through said gas, liquid, or solid matter with electric discharge. They're able to sense and locate outside sources of electricity completely separate from their own person with electric detection. And are able to take in and assimilate an outside source of electricity with electrical absorption. With all that extra juice, the user is able to amplify any source of electricity they come in contact with via electrical augmentation. They can also choose to group these ions together, condensing them into a solid form with electrical solidification. And since the electricity is already solid, you should be able to shape it into both complex and non-complex forms with electrical constructs. While more advanced users are able to take this ability a step further and actually generate their own individual and separate source of electricity with electricity generation. Since they're able to control their own source of electricity, it's possible for them to control yours and shut it off with electricity negation. Through this terrifying level of control, the user can use electricity as a form of radar, mapping out the surrounding environment with electroreception. They can also interface with these natural electrical signals and communicate with others who share this link with electrocommunication. But what if you want to interact with someone who can't perceive electrical fields? Well, use your power to read, scan, and project thought waves as electromagnetic pulse signals with electrical telepathy. And a common way to go about that is by stimulating the natural bioelectrical signals and neurons in the human brain with bioelectricity manipulation and neural impulse manipulation. 2 powers for the price of 1. With that, it's very possible to use your technique to transform your own life energy into electricity and use that to empower yourself with electrical aura. This too can grant an enhanced condition by stimulating the human body. Interacting with these signals might be a little bit more complicated than you thought, right? Well, don't sweat it. Just take your electrical aura a step further and transform your physical being into electricity with electricity mimicry. In addition to being able to become electricity, users one step below godhood are capable of projecting massive bolts of the element with electrical bolt projection. They can emit pure beams of electricity with electrical beam emission. They can use electricity to enhance whatever combative capabilities they possess with electrokinetic combat. The user can lift themselves off the ground using electricity, whether through magnetism or pure electrical force, with electrical levitation. And can project this force outward and exert a telekinetic effect over an outside object in the same manner as levitation with electrical telekinesis. They can use electricity to heal others with electrical healing and heal and regenerate their own physical being with electrical regeneration. They can conceal themselves in electricity, becoming completely invisible with electrokinetic invisibility. While the best of the best, those who have mastered this ability to the fullest are capable of shifting their physical form from one location to another, flying with electricity with electrokinetic flight. Or they can perform this instantly via electroportation. Now, they can do this in one or two ways: by traveling through electrical sources or technology via technoportation, or by creating a portal made out of electricity via electrical portal creation. They can also shift this power outward, completely transforming the target into electricity with electric transmutation. Because lightning is a way more powerful version of electricity, users of this level are able to summon lightning from the sky itself with lightning calling, and are able to release more powerful bolts of electricity with lightning bolt projection. Remember, lightning is a way stronger version than the electricity you'll find in your pipes or something, I don't know. And since they're calling lightning from the sky, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch to say that you can manipulate the surrounding weather with weather manipulation. One would also have the power to revive dead neurons, split elements into their original states, and control charged particles such as electrons, protons, and the like with physical lightning manipulation. Essentially, the generation and or manipulation of all electrical and electromagnetic phenomenon in the universe. Yeah. And there you have it. Electricity manipulation, in a nutshell. An ability that allows you to make a flashy entrance and exit is nothing to scoff at. Thinking back at that mouth-drawing spiel, there isn't much that you can't do with this ability. But in the inverse, there's a lot that can go wrong with an ability or this power. For one, users of electricity immunity are not affected no matter what you do. Electricity needs a conductor, like metal or water, to move through, meaning electricity cannot exist or move through a vacuum or insulated materials like rubber or air. The user might not be able to create electricity, only manipulate it from pre-existing forces. And as such, they might have to recharge their supply of electricity. There's also a chance for the user to short circuit under conditions of excess water, strong magnetic fields, or an opposing electrical charge. And users of electricity negation can just stop you before you let a single spark fly. And now, with all that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Electricity manipulation, an ability that arguably has more relevance in the modern era than any other time in history. I mean it, literally, like it's been woven into the fabric of our lives to where we can't even imagine living without it. Although it does have a lot of weaknesses, you're a free phone charger. That's a plus for anybody. And it can't get any better than that. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, the Shea scaling system gives this power a shocking 8. Strange number, I know, but in my opinion, even a lower tier user of this ability can still be considered a massive threat. Thanks for watching. You guys think of any more applications for this power? Jot it down in the comments section. Start a discussion. The index doesn't grow without you. I'll be back with an entirely new power, breakdown, and analysis pretty soon. Deuces.